Welcome everybody to the last week with Desiree Young, my guest, on Conversations from the Arena, where we help men and women move from the sidelines and stay in the arena where they can serve and live their best life. So tonight, we're going to wrap up our fourth conversation about the intersection of passion, purpose, and profitability. Welcome, Desiree.
Thank you, Michelle.
I'm so excited to talk about this subject tonight. We've talked fully about the definitions of passion and purpose, and we've touched the surface of profitability, but tonight we get to dive in.
Absolutely.
So go ahead and let me ask you this. You believe and you coach your clients to craft their own definition of profitability. So I just invite you to share with our audience tonight what that looks like and what that means.
Definitely. I mean, we all understand that profitability is the obvious, right? Having profits, in essence, having something left over, understanding that you're obviously spending, hopefully earning, and the profits are what is left. And so in working with business owners and organization leaders, there's the obvious money. But we really have to look beyond that, because I see so often with people recognizing if they haven't reached the true definition of profitability in the monetary sense, then they kind of sort of want to throw everything out as if they've not achieved anything, as if they've not made any progress. And so I do find it necessary for us to identify all of the metrics of profitability. And so for us, that normally looks like obviously money, yes, and that's where we'll start, but it also looks at every level of impact that they are looking to make. Okay. And so in the context of this conversation, it really does enable us to now look at their purpose and get a good sense of the purpose of the business or the purpose of their organization, and think about what are all of the ways that we can measure when it is literally something being left over in a good way, when we've actually gone ahead, when we've gone beyond in a good way. So it can be everything from the number of people reached, it can be everything from the number of hours saved, it can be everything from understanding really this whole side of impact in a community relative to when I work with nonprofits, they're looking at different statistics that have changed. It's looking at every type of change, just not the monetary change.
And I love that, because there's a lot of, people have always worked hard, but the rate of change in our culture now is so much greater, and it continues to move faster than it ever has.
It does.
So, I think that does affect our work life in dramatic ways. So, we could go on and on about this, and I want to probably come back a little bit more to what you were just talking about. But before I do, I want you to tell our audience why you think coming up with your own definition of profitability is more important now than it was 20 years ago.
It is so interesting now. I'm told statistically that this is the first time that we actually have an entire generation that is dying from illnesses that are absolutely preventable. And one of the many is mental illness, and how that literally is impacting life, not just living, like never before. And I start to think about it, and I'm on Instagram and all of the other social media outlets. This is your area for sure, but we see people now looking at what seems to be success, look at what seems to be profitability, and literally feeling like just utter failures. I have felt it. I've certainly had these different sessions that absolutely veer off the normal business conversations, where people just feel like they're not capable. We feel like we're failures. We feel like we're just not able to literally make any kind of motion, any kind of movement forward. People just feel like they're going in circles. They feel stuck. And so much of it often is based upon what we're seeing or what we think we're seeing, because I don't think all of what we see, certainly on social media, is actually true. But there's this way that we are now measuring ourselves against, which is just completely unfair and most often completely unrealistic. And so
you're talking about perceived profitability. So people are able to create personas online. We know this full well. And perceived profitability. And what you're talking about, you work with your clients, is to get them to say, well, what does profitability mean to me?
Yes.
Time
In
with
a
my
holistic
family.
way.
Yeah.
Absolutely, in a completely holistic way. Because again, if they don't, like I mentioned, there could be this absolute feeling of I'm not making any progress, I'm not making any headway, and maybe I should stop or I need to work harder or whatever that means. But sometimes it's a matter of, we're just not measuring the best things. Here's a great example. I have a trainer and I love that he does this. We all know when it comes to weight loss, there's the getting on the scale. It is the typical way to measure, have I lost or not, right? But what I
Right.
love is that he literally kind of sort of eliminates the scale and he says, okay, we can look at the scale maybe once a month, but he literally uses a tape measure. And you know what he uses? Not inches, he uses millimeters, because he's like, I want to see every small step change. Because let's be clear, every week is not going to be large enough to be able to capture from an inch.
Yes.
But millimeters, because it's so much smaller, we can really see this movement. So we know at least the direction we're going in. So we've got some type of feedback again to know, am I making progress? Absolutely. It may not be a whole lot, but I know the direction that I'm going in, or I know when I'm plateaued. And so again, if we only use money, then again, we may be bumping into making progress, but it is now on a different scale. So we've got to identify different ways to measure that, to really understand what direction someone is going in and what's going on. And if we don't define those different ways to measure, we may get stuck and think nothing is happening. And that simply may not be true.
And throw out the business completely before giving it time.
Definitely.
Right. Sometimes people launch businesses with unrealistic expectations of when that monetary
Always.
profit's going to come in. Is that
Always.
part of what you're getting at as well?
It's definitely what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
And it even works in the opposite direction. When money is being made, but there's something else that's not happening, right?
Where maybe they're missing there in life. Was that what you're talking about?
Missing in life and even missing in the business. Like literally there can be the idea of we're being profitable, but now all of a sudden we're actually not necessarily touching as many people as we initially wanted to. And we need to assess if that's okay or not.
Well, and from my own experience, I found sometimes that I'll start, I'm an Enneagram 2 in my own opinion. Okay. So I'm a helper. And so I'll dive into something with a client because I'm a solo entrepreneur. Then I have a lot of freedom, which can really shoot me in the foot. Right. And so I'll get started helping someone because I can, but it's outside of my lane. It's not the best use of their, time for me.
Yes.
But because I can and they need help with it. So that's where kind of responding to the need is, we talked about that in the last session, respond to the need, but sometimes you need to put boundaries around yourself where you don't do it all for your own sake in your quality of life or quality of business.
Absolutely.
Quality of business, but also, make sure that it's the best way to serve people.
That's right. That's right. No, so true. And like you mentioned from our other session, you are intersecting the need with what your unique capabilities are, but now understanding what and how we're measuring profitability. If we start to see there's a certain way that you're serving that is no longer getting the best result, then we kind of sort of know maybe we can make some adjustments.
Right. So I love that.
And some boundaries.
So I think this is great. So really what we're doing is we're challenging our audience here to look at all areas of your business, not just, am I making income? Because truly I've found sometimes that even though a client that I'm serving may be a strong bread and butter client, it's sapping way more time than it's really, that I could serve a lot more people and or make more money.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. I mean, I know for myself, money is definitely one piece of it, but I also start to look at, well, how many hours? And I start to look at the outcomes of the very clients I'm working with, which is why, again, I'm collecting feedback and data from them because I also have a personal desire. Part of my purpose is making impact. and understanding how that impact is felt. And so there are times where I'll find a client and they're not perhaps adjusting, or they're not able to really get the level of outcome they can. And so I'm kind of recognizing perhaps what I'm doing doesn't work or fit for them, or that I am not the best fit. And I really want to help them find one that is. So
I got it. Totally relate.
Work together. Yeah,
You know,
definitely.
in a management situation, this all could apply in a corporate setting or in a
Absolutely.
nonprofit, because you may need to move your people into different skill sets and identify what fits and what doesn't for the total profitability of the company. So that whole passion and purpose and impact all do intersect. I love this conversation.
They definitely,
I
yes.
could keep going and going and talking with you about this. You know that, Desiree.
Yes.
So let's wrap up though. What I'd like you to leave our audience with is just another picture of the intersection of passion, purpose, and profitability, and what that can mean to them if they can master that. So go ahead.
I'm glad you said picture. Okay, so my Enneagram says that I'm a little analytical and that I also like visuals. So this is kind of a visual that I've developed for your audience here. And you'll notice it's concentric circles. So I'll describe it really swiftly with our wrap up. At the center of this is identity. It is who you are being. And the truth is, it can stand alone, but without it, you've got a donut. And this idea is that we are not donuts, we are whole people. So identity certainly sits in the center of it. You'll also notice that the idea of passion is the very line that intersects every single line. So it does cross through identity, but it also crosses all of these other concentric circles. And as I move out, I'm then going into purpose, which is what I do and potentially why I do what I do. But again, purpose surrounds identity. And when we get into profitability, we'll notice profitability is not exactly just one specific circle. It's really this whole area, because the way that we measure it, we can measure profitability at every stage. Thinking of just who we are, there's some aspect of what outcomes and results I have. And thinking of our purpose and what we're doing, there's some way to measure what is that impact. And so profitability really becomes all of the space in between each of these concentric circles. It's never just one single point, because we want to be able to define that. So if there's anything I want to leave with people, it's understanding that we are whole and we are holistic, and that who we are sits at the very center. And then what we do and how we get those results are all of the pieces beyond that. And hopefully passion runs through it all.
I love it. Desiree, I just can't thank you enough. And I do want to encourage you to turn this little thing into a book. Can I say that live online?
Say that live. Say it again. Say it again.
Book, Desiree, book. Put that in a book, because there's so much there. And I know that you do this day in and day out with your clients who are, trying to launch businesses or maintain businesses, or they get stuck and they need to move from one level of business to another. And you're so good at processes and systems. I just would love to see this, in a book form. So there you go. That's my challenge to you.
You got it.
Thank
you.
you.
Write the forward.
I'll do it.
Okay. Thank you so much, Michelle. I appreciate you. I really do.
And I appreciate you. We've journeyed together for a long time. If you guys want to learn more about Desiree's work, you can go to venturewalk.com. This concludes our session with her on the intersection of passion, purpose, and profitability. You can learn more about that also, and I'll get all 4 sessions on michellecullison.com. We appreciate you joining us, Desiree, and our audience. And next week, we're going to start with a new topic, and it's with a woman named Michelle Joffre, who is one of the executive team members of my church. But I'm telling you, it's an 11 campus church, a multi-site church, and she's in charge of community. She's done some amazing things using digital to bring together and build community. And we know that as entrepreneurs, as employees, as people who want to live with purpose and live in the arena and do our best, whether you're in a corporate setting or not, we know that we typically cannot do things alone. So Michelle Joffre is a team builder, a community builder, and we're going to be talking with her in the month of March about what that looks like and how we can do that in our own lives as well. So thank you for joining us, and I'll see you back here at 8 p.m. on next Monday. Thank you. Good night.
Good night.